Welcome to today's SeafoodNews.com video, sponsored by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute.
Good morning. It's Monday, April 29th. We've just concluded a fisheries rally of several hundred fishermen and processors on the Boston Fish Pier, where Senator Elisabeth Warren and other elected officials, as well as officials from the Northeast Fisheries Coalition, spoke about the dire situation facing New England. The issues, in fact, are three. First, the fishery here is in a complete disaster, even though for 7 years the fishing industry has kept within all scientific recommendations and advice and has never succeeded a single allowable catch. Secondly, the industry is asking, along with Senators Warren and others, for interim relief, which would mean that instead of reacting to the last stock survey, that NOAA used some of the flexibility they have under the law to maybe make a 40% reduction in many of the species instead of a 70% reduction. And the third issue is the yellowtail on Georges Bank. The council has put in a very, very low quota, and they're not accepting management of this as an international transboundary stock, which would increase the share available to New England. Both Elisabeth Warren and Vito Guacchione spoke strongly about the need for U.S. fishermen to be treated the same way by the federal government as they treat farmers. Here is some of the video from the rally. First, Senator Elisabeth Warren.
Now, I don't know what's gone wrong in Washington, but it seems to me that a simple truth has been lost. So I want to say it as plainly as I know how to say it. A disaster is a disaster. A disaster is entitled to relief. And that's true whether we're talking about crops or whether we're talking about fish. It's true whether we're talking about farmers or we're talking about fishermen. Washington rushes in to help our farmers. Washington needs to rush in to help our fishermen. That is critical. When I go to Washington to fight for disaster funding for our fishermen, I want you to understand, I don't go with begging bowl in hand. I go proud to fight for our fishermen. A disaster has hit our fishermen, and it is time for our country to step up and provide relief. You bet.
Vito Guacchione, head of the Northeast Seafood Coalition.
Is that the law demands far more precision and knowledge than is deliverable. There exists limited knowledge about the full ecosystem effects on individual stocks. Yet we continue to pretend to know the unknowable and to issue catch recommendations on individual stocks as if they don't compete in the ecosystem. The third, and probably the most unfortunate, is the low end of a cycle. Just as the fishery changed the management system to meet the new legal mandates, the Gulf of Maine and Georges Bank systems were cycling into a low point in catchability. We're into our second full year of unfavorable conditions, and if history repeats itself, like it almost always does, catch rates will begin to tick up very soon, and we will be climbing to a period of high catch rates. Only this time the quotas will be gone. The Magnuson-Stevens Act was reauthorized in 2006. The result of that reauthorization was that it raised the bar on fisheries management to a level that is far beyond the scientific understandings that exist for our fishery today. These new requirements had to be implemented by 2010 to remain in compliance with the law. Few among us truly understand just how monumental a change this was. Essentially, this legal requirement stripped away any hope of relying exclusively on using our past familiar management tools like days at sea and possession limits. But instead of industry sitting around and waiting for managers to impose draconian measures that would have shut the groundfish fishery down entirely, we reluctantly embarked upon an effort to develop a system to meet the law and give the industry a fighting chance of survival. The results are that the fishery is operating in a system that has never exceeded a single total allowable catch on any stock. Industry in New England has taken individual stock management and data management from a Model T to a rocket ship nearly overnight, but not without devastating losses to many who were forced to leave the groundfish fishery. What is left of our industry after this painful and unavoidable transition are die-hard survivors of 2 decades worth of government management that continues to pretend to know the unknowable and continues to attempt to achieve the unachievable, regardless of the cost of being wrong. What we do know is that this is just not working. We do know that our fleet of vessels and captains and crew that operate them are getting older, and the resolve is getting pounded now beyond tolerance or hope. If we lose what is left of you, there will be no one to pass on the skills and knowledge necessary to continue to feed our country with this amazing natural resource. The respect and knowledge of the ocean ecosystem that comes with decades of earning a living on the ocean is something you cannot teach in history books. The failure we have before us now is not from overfishing. In fact, it could be the opposite. We feed more valuable fish to predator species now that we've regulated our sons and daughters away from the industry, and our fleet is but a fraction of what it once was. We're managing the crumbs while the cake is being wasted to natural mortality. We're destroying small businesses and a way of life in the process. Those of us who've been around long enough to know that the natural cycles of good fishing and bad fishing occur regardless of fishing effort. Good fishing doesn't always mean high abundance, just as bad fishing doesn't always mean low abundance. Unfortunately, the scientific methods used to manage this fishery do not adequately account for this known variability. Instead, we continue to manage by pretending to know the unknowable. We continue to allow enormous swings and allowable catches, which destroys any semblance of the stability that is essential to any small business. We need to find a solution in the law and the science that creates stability. Industry is willing to forego the allowable catches in the high as long as we can avoid the catastrophic lows.
Today's SeafoodNews.com video was brought to you by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute. Alaska has been protecting wild and sustainable seafood for generations and adheres to the most recognized and internationally accepted set of guidelines written by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. For recipes and additional information, visit wildalaskaflavor.com.